Hi YouTube, I'm Fox.
And I'm Eric, and today we're going to show you a tutorial on how to solve the Rubik's Cube. So, to give you an idea of how to solve this thing, I'm first going to describe that I solve it using a layers method. When you look at a Rubik's Cube, you can basically split it into three distinct layers. This bottom layer, this middle layer, and this upper layer. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to solve the entire bottom layer. So the entire thing is all matched up, and then we're going to solve the middle edges so that they all are correct to their centers, and then we're going to work on a couple steps solving the top layer. So next I'm going to describe to you what the notation of a Rubik's Cube is. So when you're holding it with one face facing you, if I tell you to do an F move, it means you take the entire front face. So looking at this, supposing this is still the front, you take just the front layer, and you turn it clockwise, like so. So just like this, F, and then if I tell you F with a prime symbol next to it, like in a little apostrophe, then that means you do the same move counterclockwise. Now, for any other one, it would basically be the same thing as if you were facing it. So if I tell you to do a U move, you want to turn the up face clockwise as if you were facing it. So as if you were facing the up side, this would be clockwise. So when you're looking at it, it's almost as though you're moving the upside towards your left. So it's going to be basically the same thing. Then a U prime would be the same thing as if you were facing it counterclockwise. And then the right would be as if you're facing it. So this is the front. Clockwise, and then counterclockwise. So then L, the left side, would be L, and then L prime. Now D is just a tiny bit trickier, would be D, and then D prime. Now there is B, which is the back side, but I don't use them in any of my algorithms. So basically saying, this would be a B move, because suppose this is it, supposing you're facing it, this would be a B move, so it would be like this, and then that would be B prime. Of course, I don't use them. So then, now that I've basically told you the notation, I'm going to go over exactly what we are going to be doing. So first let me get it out of this pattern for you. So what I'm going to be doing with this is we're going to solve the bottom edges first. So we're going to make it so that not only are these four edge pieces white, but they will match up with these as well. And then after that, we're going to solve these bottom four corners so that they each match up with their respective color. And then after that, the bottom layer will be solved. And then you might notice that as the middle layer, most of the pieces are centers, and the centers do not move. When you get down to the mechanism, these centers will always remain the same on an odd-numbered cube, such as my 7 or my 5, and then my 3. So it's basically like you're going to only need to do to solve the middle layer, so 4 pieces, these 4 edges. And then the upper layer, to finish it off, the upper layer, we are going to first orient these 4 edges, so you have like a yellow cross on the top. And then we are going to position them so that they are in the correct places. And I'll explain to you the different scenarios that you can be in then. And then once we have those, we are going to position the corners to their correct places. And then the final step is to orient the corners so that they are in the correct places. I'm going to put links in this, or not necessarily links, but times in the description as towards when in this video is each different part of the solving method, so that way, if you only need to see a certain part, you can skip directly to it. So another important part to solving any Rubik's Cube are these things called algorithms. Algorithms are any sequence of moves on a Rubik's Cube, as I showed you based off the notation, that will revert the cube back to the state you started in. So I started out in a solved position, and after I do this algorithm 6 times, 3, 4, 5, and 6, it's back to normal. This one, 3 times. So this is the second time, and then the third time, it's solved. And then this one, takes 4 times. So that was the second, third, and then fourth. Basically saying every single one of these algorithms does a specific thing to the cube that will benefit you when you're solving it. And every single one, if you do it enough times, will revert it back to how you started it. So even if it's scrambled, if you do it like this one 3 times, it will put it back in a solved state. So I'm just going to reverse the moves here for you. It will revert it back to the state that you started in that scrambled state. Now usually you end up just using it not enough times to revert it back, but enough times to where you will get it to where you need it to be. And that just tells you what an algorithm is. Whenever I tell you an algorithm, it's just a sequence of moves that will do something to the cube that will help you to solve it. It will position pieces a certain way without affecting certain other pieces, which is very important when trying to solve especially the top layer. So I'm going to move you on to the next step. So this part is the white cross. So in this step, we're just going to be positioning a piece like this so that it is in the correct place, so that it matches up white and orange. So now to show you what I did there, when you're in a situation, this step is just a lot of playing around with the pieces. You need to get used to moving pieces around so that you know where they are. So the best place to be in when you're trying to position one of these edges is to where you have the white side of it in the yellow layer, so that when you move it onto the correct side, all you do is move that layer 180 degrees and it's in the correct spot. Now, luckily, that placed this piece so that all I have to do is this, and now this one's in the correct spot, and I do the same thing with this one. So then the next step is just doing this. And then now you have the white cross. A lot of this step is just playing around with the pieces and getting them to move to your advantage. So now the next step, this step is going to be the white corners. So these are going to be the 4 corners that will go in these 4 spots. And what you want to do is you want to get it into a situation where you'll see we have the white corner here. You want the white sticker to be in this part of the top layer. So you see how this one is on the yellow side. You don't necessarily want that, but it's fine for now because I'm going to be using this one first. You want it to be in this part of the top layer. So you're going to want to move it so that it is on the same side. And then what you're going to want to do is, if your piece is on the left side, you have the white sticker on the left, you're going to want to do this algorithm, which is L prime, U prime, L. And then without harming either of your edges, it puts the corner in the correct place. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one, is L prime, U prime, L. And now this one is going to be the other scenario, where it's on the right side, which is basically the same thing, only mirrored, which is R, U, R prime. And then that piece is in the correct place. Now there's just one more left. And in the case that you have it in the top side like this, it's again just a little bit of playing around with it, where you have to, it just takes some getting used to, but if you just play around with the piece and can get it in there without messing up any of the rest of your pieces, there's no really specific algorithms I can tell you. It's just getting used to what you think works for you. So then use the same algorithm as before. And then you have the entire bottom layer solved. So this step is going to be the middle edges. Now the middle edges can basically be done in 2 algorithms. It's basically the same algorithm, only one of them is mirrored for the other side. So you want it to be in a situation like this, where you have the edge pieces here, you have the center, it matches up, and you're going to be able to tell which algorithm you're going to be using based off of where this piece needs to go. If you need to rotate it from this side to your right, which is the case now because it needs to go to blue, your algorithm is going to look like this. It is going to be U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F prime, U, F. And as you see, that put the edge piece in the correct place. Now for this one, you're going to do the same thing of U, R, U prime, I'm sorry, I think I messed that up for you guys. Okay, restart that one. It's going to be U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F prime, U, and F. And you see it places the correct one again. So this one is going to be the same algorithm. And there's one more, which is the other scenario, where you need to get this piece to move into the left side, which is the same algorithm, only mirrored, where it is U prime, L prime, U, L, U, F, U prime, F prime. And you'll notice now the entire bottom two layers are now solved. So now the next step, this step is going to be the yellow cross. We are going to orient the rest of these centers, and there are 3 scenarios, actually 4 scenarios of where all these pieces could be oriented. This is one of them where if you look just at the edges, you have this little L shape here. And in this scenario, you want to hold it where one of these 4 sides here is your front, but so that if you look at the upside, it makes an L backwards like this. And you're going to do this algorithm, which is F, R, U, R prime, U prime, and F prime. And that will give you the next scenario, which is this horizontal bar. In which case you want to hold it so that on the upside, the bar is horizontal, and you do the same algorithm, like so. And then you have all of the yellow cross. The other scenario that you can get is where you have none of the top edges correctly oriented. In which case, you do the same algorithm from any angle, F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. You do the same, and then from any angle, and it will give you this L. In which case, you do the same thing as before, and then horizontal bar, and then you have all of these oriented correctly. And that is done with this step. Now this is the next step of correctly positioning the top edges. Now these edges are going to be placed in such that when you turn these, there will always be at least 2 edges that are in their correct position. So right now you have 1, or any of the other ones correct? No. So you have to turn it and look for another one, in case now the red one's correct and the blue one's correct, but these 2 are not. So for this next algorithm, you're going to want to hold it so that one of the correct sides is on the back side and one of them is on the right side, and you do the algorithm of R, U, R prime, U, R, 2U. So you want to turn a layer twice if I tell you 2 and the letter U, R prime, and then a U move, which will place them correctly. Now the other scenario you could be in is where 2 of them are correct, but they're on opposite sides of each other. So now the blue one is correct, and the green one is correct, but these 2 are not. So in this case, you just want to hold it so that one of the correct one is on the front, one's in the back, and then you do the same algorithm. In which case, it makes it so that you will have another one of them is correct. So I got to look for it. In this case, it's the green and the orange. So in the same scenario, you do the same algorithm, and you'll have all of the edges correctly positioned as well as oriented. And thus concludes this step. Now this step is going to be correctly positioning the top corners. So now this is another algorithm, and the first step to this algorithm is finding to see if one of the corners is in a correct position. So it's how this one, it's blue, red, and yellow. So it needs to go on the blue, red, and yellow side, but it's not in the correct position. This one is yellow, orange, and blue, and it's on the correct part. It doesn't necessarily have to be correctly oriented like this one is, but it just needs to be in the correct spot. And then you do this algorithm, which is U, R, U prime, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L. And then you can do this algorithm either once or twice. It can be either one. A lot of it's just random. In this case, I only had to do it once. So you'll notice all of these corners are in the correct. The other case you can have with the corners is that none of them are correct. There's actually 3 cases. One of them is where none are correct, which is this one. One of them is where one is correct, like I just showed you. And one of them is where all of them are correct. So this is the one where none of them are correct. And this, just like with orienting the top edges, if none of them are in the correct position, you can just do the same algorithm from any position. And a lot of the times, after once, you will find a corner's in the correct place. Do the same algorithm again. And after once, in this case twice, you will have all the corners in the correct position. Now what this algorithm does is it does what I call a 3 cycle, which is where it does a cycle between these 3 corners. This one is the correct one. This is not affected by this algorithm, whereas these are. The way I teach, the way this algorithm does, is it will rotate them counterclockwise. So the piece that was here is now here, the piece that was here is now here, and the piece that was here was moved all the way over here. So basically saying if you were to do this algorithm 3 times, because you're moving these around to 3 different spots, it would just go back to normal. So now, the last step is correctly orienting these corners. Now, when I show you this algorithm, it's going to look like it's messing everything up, but in reality, when you do this algorithm 6 times, it returns itself back to normal. So if I do, in this case, the algorithm itself is R prime, D prime, R, D. And you need to do this either 2 times or 4 times in order to get this corner to be correctly oriented. In this case, it's 4. And now you notice the corner's in the correct position. Now it looks like you messed it up, but just keep holding it in the same front side facing you, and just turn the top layer so that another corner is in this upright front position. And you want to do the same algorithm as before to get down quickly oriented. And you notice after the 6th time we did this algorithm, the bottom 2 layers are back to normal. So now you need to move on to the next corner and do the same algorithm of R prime, D prime, R, D until you have the corner correctly oriented like so. And then move on to the next one, R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. And then after that, all the corners are correctly oriented, and all you need to do to solve it is turn the upper layer until it's solved. And then you have solved a traditional Rubik's Cube. This concludes the tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I really hope this helps you guys. See you next video.